And what up to all my people out there? If you want to get the full song, please click the link at the top line of the description box. It's on Spotify, it's on Apple, it's on YouTube, it's everywhere. Click the link at the top line of the description to support the sister today. Let's go.
Big as the film was, as much as it opened a lot of doors for you. Obviously, after that, I heard you saying you only got paid $4,000 after taxes for that. I'm sure, pretty sure that's true. Can you elaborate on that and talk about all the what happened afterwards, like all the opportunities you got afterwards? Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, at the time, this was the first film of that hip hop genre. So you have to understand, right. New material, new content, new actors. This was not a blockbuster film. This was actually an independent film done on a very small budget. It's become iconic now. Yeah. But when we did it, it was a small independent film, and we were just all new artists again. We were all new, happy to be part of it, happy to have a job. And so by the time we shot, at least I did, I shot for 4 weeks. By the time taxes came out, I didn't have a corporation or anything. It was my first movie. By the time all the taxes came out, I probably went home with about $4,000 and wasn't thinking that was any big deal because I was now starring in a movie, you know? And literally from the night that the movie came out to the morning after, literally, I could not walk down the street. The next morning, I probably had about 5 film offers.
Wow.
Magazine interviews. I mean, it was literally, that was overnight. I mean, I had worked and I had done other things, but literally from the night that House Party premiered to the next morning after the premiere, my career was completely different. Completely different. So when they say like it can happen overnight, it can, in terms of the success of a project, right? And even that, it's like, I had to learn very quickly how to deal with the industry and being in that kind of demand. It was probably, I was doing interviews about being the brown skinned girl from the movie and all of that. But I gotta be honest, it was probably years later that I really realized how big House Party was and would stay, and how integral of a part I was playing in the surge of the brown skinned chocolate actress. I really didn't know. I knew that I was taking on the responsibility in the film. I didn't know that other people and the audience would see it as the same. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I didn't know that the response was going to be that. And same thing for Baby Boy. Same thing for Baby Boy. I knew when I took on Baby Boy that I had a responsibility to single women, in the inner city and their struggles and raising, men in the cities. I didn't know very much about South Central, so I wanted to make sure I did my research, but I took the responsibility really seriously that I was representing these women. And it wasn't until, again, years later, where I was starting to travel and meet women all over the country, women from Atlanta, women from Detroit, women from Chicago, saying, "Oh my God, you gave me life. Oh my God, you were me. Oh my God, I love you in that movie." And yelling at me from TSA, "What's up, Juanita?" I mean, I had no idea that it was being received as that from other people.
Right. Did you ever hear that the whole Gina and Pam, dynamic was kind of the same from the movie? From your movie House? No.
You mean that the Gina Pam dynamic in Martin was the same as the House Party?
Yeah.
To be honest, I've never really heard of it that way.
Okay.
I can see how people would say that. Sydney and Shireen came first,
right.
And then you had the Pam and Gina. So I could see that. And again, I love the idea of one thing birthing the other. I do know that by the time the Martin show came around, I was on a series called Sirens. I was playing a cop for ABC. It shot for 1 season here in LA and 2 seasons they relocated us to Canada. And so that was where I was at the time. But I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I had not heard that, but I wouldn't be surprised.
I just kind of thought of that while you was talking. So
yeah.
Yeah.
The power of the friendship, right? Hashtag friendship now. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
How has your overall experience as a Black woman been in Hollywood? We like to take advantage of when we get to speak to the legendary actors and actresses to not only dive into their careers, but dive into their experience dealing with the industry itself. It's real interesting to us. So as a Black woman, how would you say your overall experience has been dealing with this industry, this Hollywood industry, this monster that we know from the outside looking in, and still keep a level of elegance and a smile on your face in life? How was your experience, if you don't mind sharing it with us?
It had its moments where it was tough. You know, it's definitely a Shark Tank. It's definitely an industry where there's no apology for the no. You know, if you know what I mean by that, meaning, you know, if you don't get a role, it's not like a lot of times you hear you don't get it, you just don't hear anything. And so you may go into a room and think I killed that shit, and you may have, but for whatever reason, too dark, too light, too short, too tall, whatever reason you don't get the role, you really don't know about it until you hear who did get it, and that can be tough. You know, we're told no more than we're told yes, and even though that's part of being in the industry, for me it never got easy to be told no so much. You know, I think what helped me, and I go back to the choices again, I think what helped me is, you know, I knew that I would never be a Black actress who was going to be put into a box of the kind of work I wanted to do. I mean, honestly, you know, one of the reasons I didn't do House Party 2 is because I had not yet, I don't think I've even said this to many people. One, I didn't like the script. I have talked about that. I didn't like the script. I didn't like the character development for as much as we did, and how successful House Party 1 was. I felt like House Party 2 just wasn't doing us or the storyline that could be. I didn't feel like it was doing us any justice. And so for me, I was kind of like, eh. But again, I was getting offers. I did the first Sister Act right after House Party. There were other offers I was getting, you know, that were amazing. I did a film with Sylvester Stallone right after House Party. So, I mean, I was getting these amazing offers. I did Dying Young with Julia Roberts. So, I mean, I was working with all these A-list actors right after that. So it was easier based on the offers I was getting to not do House Party 2 based on how disappointed I was in the storyline and the character development. But again, choices. You know, if you hear, I keep coming back to, I had choices.
Yeah.
I knew that I wasn't going to be put in a box in terms of my talent. I didn't want to be pigeonholed into the girl from the ghetto, you know, the best friend all the time. I wanted to do white films. I wanted to work with A-list, you know, non-African American. A lot of his friends. I mean, you know, he had, you know, what's his name? That I think he passed was one of his Olympic athlete boxers. Oh, help me with his name. Golly.
Not yeah, I was thinking Ali too. Man.
No. Younger.
Younger, okay.
Who was he?
In the Olympics, you said?
Yeah, he was in the Olympics with Holy. Golly, I gotta find out his name. We all became friends. All his Olympic friends were there. That's the point. All his Olympic friends who had gone on to become, you know, professional boxers.
Not Pernell Whitaker.
Who is it?
Pernell Whitaker?
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. Correct me. Did he pass?
Yes, he did. He died.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, we were all there at the fight together, and so that's what I'm saying. I think Holy really wanted his surrounding environment that he knew from day one that he knew he could love and trust, and that loved and trusted him. And so that happened to be the Mike Tyson fight. And so when that happened, you know, being at the fight, we really didn't know what was going on. We know that the fight was stopped. We saw blood, but we had no idea what was going on. I was calling people that weren't at the fight saying, what happened? What happened? And they were like, yo, Tyson bit his ear off. I was like, what? Like it was crazy at the arena. It was crazy. And by the time we finally, you know, made our way back, you know, behind stage and he was getting his ear stitched up, it was like we were all just kind of speechless. Like we just couldn't understand what happened. And then as the days rolled on past that, it was like, wow, we just never knew it was going to be the big moment. Oh, sorry. We just never knew that it was going to be the big moment that it turned out to be.
Now, the transition, you've taken us as men full circle from young boys to men and having crushes on you. Like you just leveled to this shit from Shireen to Jody's mama. But let's start with Shireen and House Party, because you talked about how you went from going to Keenan Ivory Wayans and A Living Color to kind of shooting right over to it in the blink of an eye. And when you talk about the cast and the crew with Robin Harris, the late great Robin Harris, the late great John Witherspoon, Chris Reed, Chris Martin, Tisha Campbell. The list goes on and on. I can just name them, like a bunch of names come to mind. Talk about that experience, getting on that set with such legendary people, comedians, actors at the time, and how was the vibe during that the whole movie, the creation of that?
No one was legendary.
Yeah.
You know, you have to remember that. You know, we were all artists who were either up and coming. Martin Lawrence, up and coming. Tisha was probably the most highly decorated talent on the set. And by the time we did House Party, she and I were great friends because I met her while I was in Atlanta still doing School Days. Yeah. So you know, she was a big part of me moving to LA. She was my first and best friend in LA. By the time we did House Party, and it's so funny because I see comments on Instagram now and people see us together and they're like, oh my God, it's so great that y'all are still friends. And I want to say, you know, I keep saying, y'all, we were friends before House Party. The fact that we actually did the movie together was the blessing, but we were friends even before that. So what you saw in House Party was actually our friendship. You know, we were dressed in costume and had different names, but it was really our friendship. If you watch us together now, and we're not really that different as Sydney and Shireen, but you know, Robin Harris was a comedian blowing up. Kid and Play were obviously, you know, big in the music industry and getting bigger. So it wasn't like we were legends. We were artists who Chill, you know, Daryl Chill Mitchell. We were all artists who were happy to have this opportunity, who were interested in the fun that Reggie Hudlin, writer, producer, director, and Warrington Hudlin, his brother, that they, you know, told us they wanted us to have. They told us about what they wanted to capture. And I was probably the one who, from the college environment, from an HBCU, I was bringing the party scene. You know, again, there was no party even in the script. I've told that story a couple times, that there was no party in the actual script. There was no dance scene, I should say, in the actual script. There was a party, but there was no dance battle. And that was the environment that I came from. You know, the fraternities and sororities battled all the time. You know, the freshmen battled against the sophomores. The girls battled against the boys. Spelman Morehouse. That was the environment I was used to, was dance battle. So I was like, you know, where the dance battle at? And they were like, what's the dance battle? And I was like, what? There's no party without a dance battle. And so that's where that came from. But isn't it interesting that we weren't, you know, and I think this is the best part about going back to what was it like on set. We weren't thinking about becoming legends or being iconic. We weren't thinking about creating an iconic classic film. We were thinking about having a good time, and we hoped that Reggie was capturing it on film. You know, Reggie and Warrington were open to ad libs. You know, we didn't have to stick to the script. I think they trusted who they found to cast. And I got to tell you, you know, now that we're celebrating like 30 years, can you believe that? That, you know, crazy. But when we get together, ain't shit changed. That's the crazy part. Ain't nothing changed. Our chemistry is the same. Our humor is the same. We laugh as hard. We cry as hard. We joke with each other. We just did a salute to House Party for the Apollo. It was virtual because of the pandemic, but we did a salute to the Apollo. We did a salute to House Party with the Apollo, and it was the first time that all of us were together, probably in years. Like all of us. And we were laughing. It was on Zoom, but we were laughing and talking like the day we were on set. And so it really taught me that the chemistry is untouched, and that you could put us in any story. You could put us in House Party Cast Goes to the Supermarket, and it would still be what you got. You see what I mean? It would still be the same chemistry, the same laughs, the same jokes, the same love for each other. That was just something that's who we were. And putting us in that particular story and environment was smart of Reggie. But all these years later, we haven't changed. And that's what I value the most.
Right.
I heard you all. I'm over here cheering up.
Wow.
Yeah, it's just it's sentimental, you know? And to do movies since then, to do, you know, 20 plus movies since then and TV shows since then, I'm honored and I'm humbled that I've been able to have a career that spans that kind of time. But there's nothing like that experience. Same thing with Baby Boy. There's nothing like that experience, you know? There's nothing like working with a John Singleton. You know, it's why Tyrese and I are still tight. It's why Ving and I are still tight. It's why Tisha and I are still tight from working. You know, a lot of people do a film and you never hear that their relationship lasted
Right.
beyond the film, you know?
True. True.